G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today I want to do a video on tipped bullets. The video is a general overview, more about the precision side of things, the pluses and minuses to go with a tipped bullet, but a general understanding of it. I have in front a little selection of tipped bullets, from hunting bullets to a long-range target style bullet to the extreme long-range bullets, and from metal to plastic to nylon, just a little bit of a range. There's lots out there, but this is just a little bit of discussion about it. They came from the hunting world, so working out how to get an open mouth bullet or a hollow point bullet which had great terminal ballistic characteristics, to get that to where that was more efficient at traveling through the air at high speed, with more of a point up the front there, so more of a Spitzer bullet, so it made it more efficient traveling through the air, but still did a very good job in its terminal ballistics, or in the way of how it went through the target, the flesh, the animal, whatever it was doing. And that's where it really came from in various forms. Years ago, that was, and I don't know the dates on those sort of stuff, but that started down the road of working very nicely in terminal ballistics. It was found that the plastic tips that they were using originally, the plastic suffered with deformation through temperature, and so when a bullet is traveling at over 2,000 miles an hour, or sort of the average hunting bullet, it's getting up there at least. That means that there's a lot of friction temperature on the point of the bullet. So I think 700, 800, up to 1,000 degrees of temperature through air friction on the front of the bullet, on the tip of the bullet. And that meant that that can soften that plastic, and it was starting to deform. Whether it was melting, don't know, but it was deforming. So that would start to mess with your ballistic coefficient. So they started to remedy that in bullets that were designed to go further with different materials in the way of the polyurethanes, or the ingredients that go into that little mix. And then you've got aluminium tip bullets, which is where Hornady went to, and there's some of the other manufacturers where it's Rocky Mountain or it's Alcon, or there's all sorts of people who use the tip bullet. And then we go to probably some of the later stuff, which is moving into the likes of I think it's the nylon, that the likes of Cutting Edge, who make a monolithic bullet, that use the nylon in the front of it, which gives you a very good shape, but once again, designed a lot around that terminal ballistics, or what actually happens on impact, but actually ends up as a very good thing also for the ELR side of it, or for the long range, and in all sorts of places. I'll stop talking about what people use it for. I don't know completely, but that's the design of the things. With all that, the main thing we're talking about here is, rather than trying to take the likes of a hollow point boat tail, open tip boat tail, likes of a target bullet, which is designed for extremely high efficiency of traveling through the air, so how it deals with the air very thoroughly is what the HPBT bullet is really designed more about. To make them a little bit more suited for hunting, because they've got a tip that's going to disappear, the point's going to disappear. To make them a little bit easier to manufacture by making one bit of the bullet, and then whether it's moulding or pressing in a formed tip in the front, gives you nice control over the overall shape of the bullet, in a little bit easier way to manufacture things. These are probably the main things we're talking about, and being able to push out that to more of an extreme long range, and it's not extreme long range even, it's just more efficient. So when you're shooting 600 yards, it's got a better ballistic coefficient to go through the air, a slipperier shape, by having a point that they could have more control over in what they're doing. That's the philosophy of what they're doing, and to the largest degree, that's what most of the manufacturers pull off really well. The biggest issue actually is the intersection between the tip and the actual bullet, the tip and the rest of the projectile. That intersection, no matter where it is, from just past the tip to before the bearing surface, the flat side of the bullet, that section there is really the bit of the bullet that sees the most air friction and needs to be the most consistent for when it's traveling through the air. If you have a groove or like your rifling or things which are on the bearing surface, but if you have anything that's down the actual longitude of the bullet, that largely, to the largest degree, as it's not too inconsistent, it gets smoothed out by the speed that a bullet or a projectile is rotating at. From, if you do the maths, is from at sort of slow bullets, probably 1,000 RPM, 1,000 revolutions per second, to up to 5 times that fast. So there's a little line down the side is largely going to get smoothed out, not in actual fact, but the way the air is going to deal with it is going to see it very smoothly because it's spinning so quickly. Going forward, even though a bullet's going forward very quickly, there's no, other than the speed of it going through the air, there's nothing that's actually smoothing out little bumps and pressure points and things you're going to see on the side there. It's going to be rubbing against them. There's the sonic cone, which has a little bit of impact on things, but to the largest degree, there's stuff rubbing down the side of it. So if you have any grooves that are this way around the bullet, like an intersection between your tip and the rest of your projectile, that is something that's always going to be a problem, especially if it's inconsistent. So if it's always the same, then all the bullets are going to be the same, then that's not too much of a fuss. But if you get something that is got a thou of inconsistency, whether that's the concentricity between where the tip pushes in and where the lower of the bullet accepts it, whether that's a little groove where there's a little bit more of an intersection from one to the other. On a microscope you can start to see this sort of stuff. You look really closely at a tip bullet and you can see where there's this little imperfection of that joint. Once again, the more money they put into the manufacturing process, into the finishing processes can answer that, but that is really probably the Achilles heel of a tip bullet. Once you, as I said, you go up in the manufacturing processes, the better quality bullets, it's probably at the top of the tip bullet range, in my estimation at least, would be the likes of the cutting edge bullet, which is made, like I said, I'm fairly certain it came from the hunting strategy, open mouth with the tip filling up the inside of it. But the end result was a very, very good shape out of what they do. There's some other idiosyncrasies attached to the cutting edge conversation, but still you end up with a very good bullet. But what you've got is a fully machined solid bit of copper on the back half, and then you've got a machined, I think it's nylon or something like that, machined in the front. So a lot of control over both how well it's all lined up to the finish and the sharp edges of joining together. You come right back down to the basics of things. In the cheaper bullets, I'm not going to mention any brands, you get cheaper bullets and start to have a closer look, you'll see that that intersection is not only not particularly perfect, but if you compare a dozen bullets, you're going to find differences between them. Ultimately, that's the biggest reason you largely won't find a normal, at least a plastic tip bullet, or an average sort of tip bullet in a match, in a competition, simply because there's a little bit of inconsistency. Largely not a concern whatsoever, still very good and better than average for hunting and for normal sort of target shooting. They don't tend to be any issues. Once you go to that fine level, then it's right on the edge of things, and when you go to the extreme long range, that friction up the front, that little inconsistency can become even a bigger thing. Still great bullets, still work really well, but that's sort of an overview of really what tip bullets about. Well, you largely won't find them in matches, but equally they're starting to sneak in. The likes of the A-tip and the Hornady, the likes of the lasers, the likes of Alco bullets haven't had anything to do with them, but there's people putting more and more effort into it. It's about this manufacturing / first thing getting the shape you want, so it is all very relevant. Ballistic coefficient is what they're largely changing in like I said, a bullet that came from the hunting world, but actually is doing a very good job in making a very efficient shaped bullet. Just some tiny inconsistencies there. Anyway, that's an overview of tip bullets. I hope that made some sense to the people. Thanks for checking in, and we'll catch you next time.